For more on this, we're joined from Washington, D.C. by the Asia One correspondent, James Gooderson. James, thank you so much for being with us today. So there are mixed messages about the diplomatic efforts from both sides. What have we heard from the Trump administration today?
Yes, indeed. In the past week, we've seen President Trump pivot from diplomacy to threatening a huge attack on Iran's energy infrastructure and then back to diplomacy again. It really is moving a mile a minute here. The president claiming that Iran asked to negotiate privately, but then publicly says no discussions are going on. Yesterday, he said they'll have every last chance before decapitation, some very strong in the White House. Now, Iran say from their point of view, they're focusing on discussions with Oman about establishing a temporary solution to the Strait of Hormuz, as you outlined there, in regards to decision-making over inbound shipping and then also monitoring outbound shipping as well, which would be a huge change for the better in Iran's case for how they can oversee traffic in the Persian Gulf. But we've seen some quite positive signs that there probably looks like there is going to be some form of deal from Washington, D.C. Firstly, from Qatar, of course, they were saying that some agreement had been circulated between both parties. They said a deal hadn't been reached yet. There's no timeline on it, but the focus is on that short-term path. But we've heard from two really senior members of the Trump administration about it. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says a deal could be reached within the next 24 hours when he spoke to CNBC. And indeed, Senator Marco Rubio said some remarks on the matter when he was in an engagement, saying the ships are moving through the straits. There's oil moving right now through the straits. The straits are open. The denuclearization of Iran is the ultimate deal. The immediate deal, the one that you see a lot of focus on, is the straits. So clearly, look, conversations are happening. But as I said at the start, this is sort of a discussion specifically directly about opening the Strait of Hormuz. But there are red lines for both sides that are yet to be discussed. And that has really been kicked down the road.
And James, another ship has been hit in the Strait of Hormuz today. How can the talks materialize if the war keeps going?
Yes, that is the irony of the situation, is that there's clearly a huge amount of discussion going on regarding the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, it still poses a huge danger to those ships in the area. A Liberia-flagged dry bulk ship was hit by an unknown projectile close to Oman's coast while sailing. The crew had to abandon ship. One person's missing. It means since the war began, there's been almost 80 incidents in the Strait. And as I say, the Strait really is the heart of the matter now. Iran see this huge opportunity to gain leverage over the Strait and reset the status quo on how shipping works there. That's really their key demand, and also indeed their key bargaining chip, because it is one of, if not the most important waterways in the world. It transports a huge amount of the world's oil and gas. It's sent prices skyrocketing since it's become difficult to cross since the war began. So, look, from Iran's point of view, they see this as an opportunity, having got through the barrage from the US and Israel in the early stages of this war. They feel now like they can exert their influence on the Hormuz and come out the other side of this conflict with a bigger control over it.
And James, is there pressure on President Trump from the Gulf nations to now find a solution?
Reading between the lines, I think the answer to that question is yes. We knew over the weekend that Saudi Arabia had called President Trump and effectively said, please don't bomb Iran like he was planning to. As we discussed, those massive strikes targeting energy targets was eventually put on hold. So we knew Saudi Arabia had called over the weekend, and then yesterday, when President Trump was doing an engagement, he said that not only the Saudis had called him, but also the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. And he said that some of them, didn't name them, but some of them begged him not to make that strike. But look, Iran and Oman are currently trying to figure out exactly what their relationship will look like in the Strait of Hormuz. But clearly, alongside that, I think there is a real push from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar to try and get an agreement specifically to get ships out of the Strait of Hormuz, and then going forward tell President Trump, look, this deal is sellable to you. We should accept it, get the Strait of Hormuz sorted, get oil flowing out of there again, and then be able to discuss further, more difficult issues.
And James, how is the war affecting the Americans at home and President Trump's chances in the midterms?
It has had a profoundly negative effect on Americans that we're starting really to see now. Gas prices for people's cars, that's up 37% since the war began. Diesel up 42%. So Americans aren't feeling this when they fill up at the pump. And that sort of pain can really trickle down into a difficult cost of living situation for Americans. And largely as well, I think that the war is seen relatively negatively amongst the American public. Also, a very shocking poll came out yesterday that showed that the Democrats now have the lead in terms of who do you trust most with the economy in the United States, the Democrats or the Republicans, the Democrats rather, having the lead in that poll for the first time since 2017. So you can see a really tangible shift there. And then looking further downstream to November, when these midterms are happening, if people feel like they have got a difficult deal, if people feel like the prices are high and they attribute that to the war in Iran, then you could see a lot of people voting against Donald Trump. Now, of course, he isn't up for election himself. It is purely for the House of Representatives and the Senate, but it is very, very crucial because it will dictate for the final 2 years of President Trump's term what sort of legislation he can get through Congress. And then also, if the Democrats gain control of, say, the House of Representatives, that could mean a variety of new inquiries and investigations into the Trump administration, which would take up a lot of their time and a lot of media attention.
James, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.